I would suggest, because not one example will be given. The entire discussion today for the next 2.5 hours will be on costing of products. We will not discuss pricing other than maybe some thumb rules, but because costing and pricing are, have you started? Yeah, you can start too. Okay. Because costing and pricing are two different subjects altogether. And we can do via 2.5 hours, we can do a 2.5 day session on pricing. So this is purely a costing discussion to try and understand concepts behind what costing is. So if anybody is in the pure service space, particularly IT space, they are not going to find this useful. We can organize a separate session where some guys who do costing of IT services and IT this thing can come and do a session. But today is not the day because I don't have a background in that, and if I attempted that I would make mistakes. So I don't want to, okay? But I mean, you're welcome, I mean, if to understand how product costing is done. Okay. How many of you understand this concept of pass-through? How many of you understand what GST is? Okay. So quick quiz, is GST a cost? This session has to be interactive, otherwise, I mean, you guys will get fed up listening to my voice, and as it is, you would have noticed my throat is bad. So don't please make it worse, and the only way that can happen is if you guys do most of the talking and I listen. So is GST a cost? Sorry? How many of you think it's a cost? And how many of you think it's not a cost? So if you think it's not a cost and it comes on the invoice when you buy, then what is it then? You're not giving it to the government. There is, you don't give the entire amount of GST to the government, but that's a different subject. So, incidentally, it is not a cost. And that is pass-through. Because what are you doing? You're collecting it on behalf of somebody and giving it to somebody. Okay, so that is one example of pass-through. Can you give me another example of pass-through? Now, if somebody doesn't understand the concept of pass-through and wants to stay in manufacturing, particularly product, then you will have a difficult time. So let's discuss what pass-through is if you guys haven't understood it.
Something like broker?
Sorry?
Broker? Something like broker?
Broker?
Yeah. Brokerage. Mediator.
No. Brokerage is a cost. Somebody is bearing that cost. Delivery charges is again a cost. It is not a pass-through.
Service charge?
Sorry? So you buy it at a price and sell it to a price and hopefully make profit in between. It's not a pass-through.
Service charge?
GST is a pass-through. Just imagine the concept. The amount of GST you collect is not relevant. You collect it from your customer and pass it on to the government. So you have nothing to do with it as long as you collect the right amount. Whatever category you come under, 18%, 12%, 5%, whatever category you come into, if you collect the right amount and give it to the government, it doesn't affect you at all. Sorry, let me change it a little bit. It will affect you to the extent of the money blocked in GST, because you have to give it to the government within 7th of the next month or whatever, and if you have given 90 days credit, the customer will pay you after 90 days, so you are indirectly funding the government. But apart from that cost of that thing, and your funds blocked for that period. And again, we are not doing a cash management discussion today. But apart from that cost and apart from blocking that fund, there is no impact on you. So fundamentally, pass-through means that any change is not relevant to you. So let's imagine we are selling gold jewelry, okay, and suddenly the price changes from $1,500 to $1,700. So when you contracted that jewelry, you contracted it at the price of gold at $1,500 or whatever the rupee equivalent is. And by the time you sold it, it was $1,700. So what happens to you? Is there a profit? You have a fixed price. Okay, so now let me rephrase it. If your contract is over 6 months, deliver every month some quantity, are you going to buy gold for 6 months?
No.
You're not. So you contracted it at 1,500 and suddenly you're buying gold at 1,700. What will happen? Fastest way of going bankrupt. So how do you manage this situation? So there are 2-3 ways of managing this. One is you hedge gold. You immediately, if you have sold, let's say, jewelry worth 3 kilos, you go out and buy 3 kilos. You don't take delivery, but you buy it and ask for staggered delivery. So when you hedge gold, there is a slight cost over 1,500, but it will not swing to that extent. Or you deal with it as a pass-through. You pass the risk on to the customer. So you are not bothered what the price of gold is. You tell the customer, I contracted with you at $1,500. I am delivering to you X quantity, and these are the prices at which I bought. Give me the differential. Likewise, if the price drops, you will give him the differential. Either you will take or you will give. You will not make any profit or loss on, and this is very common in the industry. So it's also normally common in long contract business, where you do a contract for 6 months or you do a contract for 1 year, and you deal in a metal, like you may be doing aluminum casting, for instance. I mean, the price of aluminum fluctuates and nobody can predict that. Something happens somewhere and aluminum will change. Steel, for instance, that fluctuates. I mean, suddenly China starts dumping material, you will find that the price of steel will drop. So when you get into long contract, but I'm not again getting involved in now what is purchasing and how do you purchase. I just want you guys to understand the concept of pass-through. So what we are going to do now is we are going to build a cost sheet. And this entire discussion today will be from the perspective of company owner or a company core team member. It is not from an accounting perspective. Okay? So please don't quote any of you chartered accountants out here or cost accountants, because they will know more about the subject than me. I will know costing from a owner's perspective, not from the perspective of what accounting standards are and that kind of a thing. And for us as operating managers, this is what is important. Let the accountants take care of the accounting part. So what we are going to attempt is to build a cost sheet. So what we have to track necessarily is that at every stage of the business, what are you paying for? So let's take a case. Any volunteer who's building a product, and we can do a discussion, I can do a discussion with them. You are building a product. So what is it? Give me an example of an item you're buying.
An oscillator.
Sorry?
Oscillator.
Oscillator. That's a full product. Part of the product. So is it an assembly? Is it a sub-assembly? Is it a component?
Assembly.
It is an assembly. So for the assembly, there must be have a bill of material.
Yes.
Okay. So, but we will come to that later. But when you buy the product, is it an American product, Indian product? You buy it in India, what is it? American product. So, we will come to this example later. Anybody buying an Indian product? You buy an Indian product. Okay. Tell me the product you buy.
We are buying the electronic components,
Okay.
electronic
The electronic component made in India.
made in India. As well
Okay.
as sub-
So let's discuss that. So you buy it from whom? Bell?
we buy it from a
Or
vendor from
semiconductor,
Bangalore.
huh?
We buy it from a vendor from Bangalore.
Vendor from Bangalore. You don't buy it from Bell directly.
No, because it's not available. Our purchases are going to be limited in number.
Okay. So when you buy from the vendor, have you ever thought about what the costs behind him are?
Absolutely. We
So
know that.
give me an example. What?
Say, for example, when we are buying some electronic components like ICs or some basic resistors, capacitors, we pay something like 10 rupees for a component. The actual cost of the component is only about 1 rupee. I mean, cost of the component manufactured by the company in India is 1 rupee. And
What do they sell it at? What is cost is not relevant to you.
selling at 10 rupees a piece.
No. What is, let's say the product originally came from Bell.
Yeah.
Bell is selling it at what price? So let's assume that it sells it at 5 rupees.
5 rupees.
Okay, so what do you think are the costs which Bell is incurring, which you are paying for?
In between the dealer and the transport and the warranty.
Okay, so let's see what are the costs. So let's say a bought out item from India, which is like a resistor or a capacitor or a transistor bought from. So Bell is interested only in its X works price because everything else is a payout for them. So as a manufacturer, and tomorrow when you sell your product, the delivered price to the consumer is not relevant. So sometimes when I ask a startup I'm mentoring, what is your price? I mean, today is not a pricing discussion, but I'm just giving this example. And they will say, I sell this at 3,000 rupees. So do you get 3,000 rupees net back in your hand? No. So it is irrelevant what the different costs you incur to get the product to the customer. What is relevant is what do I get at the factory gate? Am I clear? It's also called net back. It's known by different names. So the net back or the X works price is what is relevant to Bell. So what are the costs they incur after that? So they incur GST, which is a pass-through for them, but it is a cost to you as of now. If you are the ultimate guy, then it is a cost. There is somebody paying that. So the last guy in the chain, but fortunately you are not the last guy in the chain. So to you GST will be a pass-through. There is freight. You can ask Kalyani here for this presentation, so I would suggest you, be involved in the discussion rather than making notes, please. So, freight, there is a distribution margin. So, this is your cost plus GST. Okay? And the GST, if you in turn are converting this product or you are reselling the product or whatever it is, GST is a pass-through.
Distribution margin involves marketing.
So total distribution margin. It can be distributor, it can be below the line, it can be whatever it is. The margin to distribute. Advertising is a company expense. It is before X works. Okay, we will come to all that. So when you build your own cost, I'm taking you through this because it is important for you to understand how to supplier of yours constructs his cost. So before this we have no clue. This is his price to you. Okay, so whether he is making 10 times money, whether he is making no money, whether he is selling below variable cost is not our problem. If we know that he is minting money, you can go and try and negotiate with him. But today I don't know how many of you have the financial muscle and the quantity to go directly to a large manufacturer and start negotiating with them. Because they will have some minimum quantity requirements and so on and so forth. So when you scale, by that time you would have learned how to negotiate this. So I'm not getting involved in that. I'm just trying to get you to understand what are all the costs involved. So your cost plus GST, this is what he realizes, Bell realizes in there, and then they incur certain costs. The advertising which they do, whether it's on television, whether it is on the newspaper, they take out these half-page ads, is all before this. Whether they sell one transistor or whether they sell 1 million transistors, that cost cannot be this thing. Whereas here, if they sell 5 pieces, there is only a cost of 5 pieces. Yes, please. I can't hear you. Yeah. Ask for a mic or speak loudly, please. And I will pretend I can't hear you even if I can hear you, because everybody must understand the question, because then the answer is relevant.
My question is, if the GST rate, can you hear me?
If the GST
Rate at both the levels are different, then will it add to the cost?
you're getting into very complex territory. So what you're really saying is, if it is 18% and your product is only 5%,
Yes, sir.
then it will add to your cost. But pray that, so this is what is called an inverse pyramid. So it happens even in import duties, where the typically import duty theories are the raw material will be lowest, the building block, as you go along the duties will become higher, because the government wants to encourage people to, if at all they have to import the raw material rather than built products. But there are products in India where the raw material import duty is higher and the finished product duties are lower. So they call it an inverse pyramid. I mean, next time you read the newspaper, somebody cursing, typically a guy who imports raw material will be the guy cursing, and they will use this term. Because typically a pyramid will go like this, but this is a inverse pyramid here. So we are getting into complex territory out there. So let's keep it simple for the time being, that the GST you pay to your vendor is the GST you charge your customer. Is this clear? So in this did anybody think of this question? Who pays for transit insurance?
The customer has to pay for it because he is asking for the.
Okay. So sometimes the company will take out what they call open policies, which will be covered right till the end. But when you buy, you must be very clear commercially that whether this is covered or not. Sorry?
It's already covered in the product.
Please do not assume anything. The devil is in the detail, or God is in the detail, depending on what you preach and what you practice. The detail, and how many of you have heard of Murphy's Law? Okay. Others haven't? Before you learn costing, learn Murphy's Law. It's the most important thing you will ever learn in your life. If anything can go wrong, it will. So the rare chance that there is no insurance, that is the time when you will have a problem with the product. So that is why they say devil is in the detail. That you must be sure that all bases are covered. Am I clear on this? Okay. So let's now go to a item bought out from a foreign country. Now again, you guys would be looking at it because the quantities you are buying are small. So you must be buying from some local guy who is importing it and giving it to you. Or you must be buying it from some American distributor or European distributor who is sending it to you, and if it's an electronic component, it will come by DHL. So DHL will lump everything and tell you, and invariably charge you more for it. Yeah. Okay, I hope DHL doesn't see this thing, otherwise they will sue me. Yeah. So there is a factory X works. Just like the Indian manufacturer wants his net back, the American guy also wants a net back because he is concerned with the cost, but if those costs go out of whack, then his net back comes down. So let's assume that this guy is somewhere in suburbs of Detroit, 100 miles away. So he'll have to come to the closest airport or the closest seaport. So somebody is paying for the inland haulage. Now in the case of an electronic component, that will not be very significant. But if it is some steel piece, this will be a steel product or an aluminum product, this can be significant. When it has to go from that factory to the nearest airport or the seaport. There is port handling charges in that country. Somebody takes the material and gives it to the shipping company or to the airline. The manufacturer's representative is not going to sit. So in India they are called custom house agents or port agents or whatever. So there also they are called the same thing, custom house agents. They handle the entire port. The foreign CHA charges. So invariably this guy will collect it on your behalf and pay the port. If you send goods out through Chennai Port is not doing social service here. It will make a charge. So similarly, whatever port they send it out of, there will be a charge. And this can be 1%, 2%, 3% of the product cost, which is quite significant. This can be 0.5%, 1%, 2%, depending on the size and value of the component. Typically for very high value, percentages are smaller. For low value, the percentages are larger. But there is a charge. Then there is an air or ocean freight. So let's say we are either in Chennai or in Trichy, our manufacturing base. So it will come by sea to Chennai port, or it will come by air to Chennai port. So there is an air or ocean freight. There is a distribution margin unless you buy directly from that. So the distribution margin can be zero, or there will be a charge to that if you are buying through a distributor. So you have covered air or sea first, so that it lands in the Indian seaport or in the Indian airport. So there is a port charge in India. There is an Indian customs agent charge. There is an import duty. So is import duty, can you get it back from the customer? Or is it a cost? You can't offset it, like you can offset GST?
You can provide it if the product is exported back.
That's a different thing altogether, because then you what is called drawback. But so there is a total drawback in which this will be one of the components. But if you are going to sell this in India, is this a cost or is this a pass-through? Okay, how many of you think it's cost? And how many of you think it's pass-through? Okay, it is a cost. It's not a pass-through. Please understand the concept behind import duty. The concept behind import duty is that you are charging a particular rate based on trying to protect your domestic manufacturers. So if it is a pass-through, it's no longer protection. And that has been the crib of the Indian domestic manufacturers, that the government of India has reduced import duties to ridiculously low levels. Now, as consumers, we like it, but as manufacturers, we don't like it. And our import duties are about the most competitive in the world in terms of how low they are. So, I mean, you will occasionally be reading in the papers about Trump being upset on motorcycles, yeah. But that is Harley Davidson, and I think a guy who buys Harley Davidson really couldn't care less what the import duty is, yeah. So there, and maybe 100 bikes are sold at the end of the year, so it is making a mountain of a molehill. There really isn't an issue, but it's a good whipping point. Typically for most, all consumption items, bulk items, our import duties are very, very, how do I put it, competitive. It is only for the so-called luxury items. Now, defining luxury is a little bit difficult. You go to France, wine is a daily requirement. In India, wine is considered luxury. So that is another panga going on between the EU and India. They are saying reduce import duty on wine, and we are saying we will not do it because it is coming under luxury. But the discussion today is really not on what is luxury, what is not. The fact is that it is a cost. So all this is your cost plus CVD. You understand what is CVD? Countervailing duty. Have any of you come across this term before? Okay, CVD is nothing but the equivalent of what GST is. So if you are in an 18% GST category, CVD will be 18% on this product. If you are in the 5% GST category, CVD will be 5%. And how does the government ensure that the CVD and what you call GST is the same? Any ideas on how they do it? How does the government track how much you make, how much you don't make, how much you import, how much is manufactured locally, how much you have exported? How is the government tracking it? The harmonized code. So every product made has a harmonized code. And this harmonized code is a global harmonized code. Whether it comes out of the US, whether it comes out of Europe, whether it comes out of India. It is universally accepted, and that's why it's called harmonized. Earlier, different countries had different codes leading to all sorts of mess. So the harmonized code determines that. So if your product is in the 18% category, automatically this is 18%. So now is CVD a pass-through or it's a cost? Sorry? It's a pass-through. How many of you think it's a pass-through? How many of you think it's a cost? Cost. Okay. How many think it's a pass-through? Okay. It is a pass-through. Because this is nothing but, and the very term should give it away, countervailing duty. This is to say, so as I explained, the logic behind import duty is to give that minimal protection to the domestic manufacturer. It's a different discussion that the domestic manufacturer thinks that they are not getting enough protection. But whatever it is, if that import duty of 5% or 7.5% or 10% is protection to countervailing duty. So once they have been protected, then they pay GST. Because if they didn't pay GST, then the imported product has an advantage over the domestic guy. So this is nothing but GST. And in the good old days also, before GST was introduced, the same concept of CVD was there. At that time it was excise duty. So to the people old enough to remember what excise duty was, this was excise duty. So this is a pass-through.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Does CVD go to Indian government or the foreign country?
Indian government. Foreign government has got nothing to do with it. The goods have now come inside India.
No, so in foreign government, what means that foreign government getting benefit from that?
They have sold the product to us. That is the benefit. Their balance of payments has improved because they have sold the product to us. When we sell a product to the US government collects import duty. I don't know whether the US government has a GST or not. I don't think they have a GST. So they must be having something equivalent to this on their local excise duty equivalent. They don't give it to us. The government, when we export from here, the government at times may charge an export tax. So for some specific products, there is an export tax. I think that is something which the government, but otherwise typically 99.9999% of the items, there is no tax for going out there. And as he said, even these import duty and all, you will get it back by what is called drawback when you export the product. So again, that same question, who pays for transit insurance? And here remember, it's a very complicated thing. At least when you buy locally, the guy is in Bangalore, you are in Chennai, there is one truck involved. Count the numbers involved here. It was bought out somewhere 100 miles from Detroit. So there is inland haulage there. It moved from the plant to the nearest airport, so there is insurance involved out there. Then it was lying in the port for some time. There is insurance involved there. It was then coming by sea or by air. There was insurance involved in that. It lands in the Indian port and stays there for 3 days. Insurance involved there. There is inland haulage. I forgot that, is it? No, actually it's going to come, sorry. That's what I was wondering. There is inland haulage in India. So from the factory gate of your supplier to your factory gate, who is responsible for insurance? Sorry? No, it can be the seller. It can be the seller. It can be the buyer. It depends on what you have negotiated. So, these are the different terms you will negotiate. So, X works is you pay that guy and every cost after that is your problem. Even free on board, FOB is free on board, which means that he will load it on the ship or the aircraft. Till then the costs are his, after that the costs are yours. CFR is he will pay for the freight up to the Indian port. CIF is he will pay for the insurance also. And delivered is he will pay for the inland haulage in India also. Now, typical terms is FOB, CFR, CIF. Rare. Unless you are buying an item through courier, because then the guy comes and delivers it in your place. Then he gives you some total charge, says 35%. And now I understand they've started giving a breakup. In the good old days, they never used to give a breakup. So net result was that the portion which you could get back, you never got it when it came by courier. But these days I'm told, how many of you get items by courier, DHL or somebody? So do you get a breakup for whatever, and they give separate GST, separate, that's what I heard, that they have now started doing that.
FedEx.
Yeah. All the, if one guy does it, everybody will do it. Any doubts on this? Yes, please.
About like Indian, they're buying a product from India. So they're selling at some price with some GST percentage. Now I'm adding a distribution margin to that. Now I paid some GST, but then I'm getting more GST. Like, is it really passed through? I don't understand that concept.
In an Indian product.
Yes.
So you are paying GST at the, what is the concept of GST? Do we have a pen? Marker? See, GST is brilliant because I am a great supporter of GST incidentally. So GST is brilliant because it is what used to happen in the good old days when there was the sales tax regime. You had two taxes. You had excise duty, which was a pass-through in the good old days also, and you had a sales tax, which was not a pass-through. It was what we used to call cascading. So at every stage you would pay sales tax, and at every stage it would keep accumulating. So if the product, let's say was a manufactured product and went through 4 different or 5 different factories to come to the finished form, it was multiplied 5 times. So we are all engineers, hopefully, we understand what is cascading. What has GST done? GST is giving you a set off at each stage. So once the pen comes, I'll draw it out. So let's say I'm buying from you and I will assume 20%, so that the math is easy. We won't get involved in 18% and things like that. It will get complicated too. So stage 1 is 100 rupees plus 20 GST. Assume that there is no margin, otherwise it will just complicate it. 120 rupees. Or let's say there is a margin of 10 rupees, 130. So the distributor has made a margin of 10. So now he is selling it to you at 130 at 20%. So 26. 65156. What does he do? He has to remit 26 rupees to government. He has paid 20 rupees, so he will get this credit. So in effect he pays only 6 rupees. Is this clear? So it doesn't matter through how many hands it changes. It is not cascading. Okay?
Sometimes when we come from abroad, they say this is the cost in the home. It is your responsibility.
That is what is FOB, no?
This FOB is loading from the home country.
Yeah.
It's still our fault.
Yeah, so that is CIF or CFR, depending on who's paid for the insurance. Then all this will, India port charges, India CHA charges, all this is your headache. If you buy delivered, they are paying all this also. Delivered in India is very rare. Delivered in Europe and USA is very common. So that is why you will find, I mean, we are digressing here. A lot of the big manufacturers, what they do is, they are now opening warehouses in the US and they transfer the material to the warehouse and give local delivery. But I mean, you need really scale to do all that. Because the customers prefer local delivery. Nobody wants to go to a bank, clear documents. Nobody wants to go to the seaport or airport and clear material. I mean, it is not in their DNA to do all that. Yeah. So, a lot of the customers globally prefer delivered. Incidentally, in India also now, a lot of the Korean companies, a lot of the Japanese companies, for a lot of commodity products, they do this delivered concept. They do exactly what I was telling you. They have warehousing in India, they bring the material in bulk and will give you small quantities. So that is what is called delivered. But we are getting involved in distribution now, not in costing here. So, so any doubts on this till we move to the next one? So this is possibly the most crucial thing we will discuss today. So any what you call, we can go through this again and again so that so you must be getting item fabricated, yes? Or is everybody buying only a product? Is anybody getting buying fabricated items? You are buying fabricated item. You are buying a fabricated. Okay. So, how do you do the costing for a fabricated item? So there is a cost of material. So there is a logistic cost of moving bought out material to fabricator location. There is wastage because you give him 1 kilo. Whatever exercise he does in the fabrication, there will be some wastage. There is a conversion charge. There is from his location, there is freight to your location. So this is the total cost of the fabricated item. He is not doing it for free. Yeah?
Service charge.
It's not a service charge. It's a conversion. You are getting, let's say, sheet metal work done. You pay him something per kilo, no? So to convert the sheet which you give him, you are paying him some amount. Or if he is drilling holes for you, if he is doing some milling for you, there will be a charge. So typically it's called conversion charge. See, so you are buying the material. So you have to pay GST on that. You will also pay GST on the conversion charge. And then ultimately all that is a cost. And you will get the GST back because he will bill you for this thing. So on that he will charge you GST. So you will take that as credit in your this thing.
So what the cost of material, like we use two different kind of material. We like weld it or put it together, and the cost of GST is different for two different materials, and the conversion cost is again different. Say 5% for.
So obviously there are two different components, isn't it? Or is it one component?
Two different material fabricated to be one.
And you weld it together. So when I said cost of material, it is not per material. It is for, so let's work on that example. So let's say you are welding together material 1 and material 2, and you need 3 kg of this and you need 5 kg of this. So the GST on this for 3 kg, so let's say is 200 rupees, for 5 kg 300 rupees, and for 5 kg is 500 rupees.
The question was like, what is the GST of two materials itself is varying?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is an amount. The percentage is just to facilitate you, and depends on how good your lobbying was with the government to fix it in what category. So different. How do you think that 18%, 12% all came? No, ultimately it will all become one. When it will become is the question. Ultimately there will be only one GST rate. Either it will be 0 or it will be some number which they will come to. The rumors are that it will be 15%. So globally it is 0%, 15%, 17%, 18%. I've seen all these numbers abroad. So typically food will be 0. But processed food will not be 0. So in some countries even processed food they give you 0. So, but otherwise food will be 0, everything else will be one rate. Unless you want to buy a Jaguar aircraft, that will have a different rate. So the welding will have, that guy will charge you a welding rate, no? Plus there will be a GST on that. So that will typically be 18% because it is manufactured.
All this gets passed through or?
All will be passed through. Because you will be using this to fabricate a larger product, isn't it? Any doubts on this? All clear? I can do a pop quiz on this now. I have an IIT prof sitting here, senior guy. So, pop quiz is still in a function in IIT. How many of your students still? Do you still have periodicals?
Yes.
You do? Monday, Wednesday? And you have pop quiz also, no? You want a pop quiz? So, this is even more important than the earlier one. This is the defining thing of really what we will discuss today. And can we distribute the sheets, please? So, you will get a printed thing for you. Just imagine what product you are making and can you define these 4, 5, 6, 7 items which you do to build that. So visually think of what you make and how it fits into this, and then I will answer questions, because the layout itself is very, very simple. I talked about a fabricated item in just now in the previous slide. Components is what you buy. You put these two together and come with it. What you spend in your plant to make it is not relevant. This is nothing but a bill of material. Please don't get involved in your labor. Don't get involved in your power charges, your machinery investment. Don't get involved in that. What is my bill of material? So try visualizing this. Can I get some more, please? Thank you so much. What's the time? Material. So when you get the total, this is the first step towards identifying what your variable cost is. So what is the definition of variable cost? Is it okay if I sit and talk? Okay. So what is the definition of variable cost? Sorry?
Depends on the market.
Sorry?
Something that is